there, my beautiful pumpkins, and welcome back to the pumpkin patch. If you are new here, hello, my name is Chloe Taylor, and I like to believe that we have the most autumnal cozy channel on this corner of the internet. So if you like cozy vibes, you like the way that I read, be sure to hit that subscribe button and become a member of the pumpkin patch. And before we jump into today's reading, I do want to remind those of you that are unaware, I do have my Patreon available to you, where I give early access to all of my pick a card videos, bonus content. There's a card of the month. There's weekly energy that goes out every Monday. There's also pick a cards that you don't see here. So we do like the monthly there. We'll be doing the July monthly over there. I let you also choose what kinds of readings you want. And in the future, I will be adding more bonus content there, at least to the top tier. We're going to be doing like printables and things soon. So if you want to get on that vibe, definitely check it out. We have a chakra reading, like what chakra is imbalanced, and like balancing techniques for you that just went out or will be going out depending on when this video goes live. But that is over there exclusively for you. We do like full moon readings, all kinds of stuff. So definitely check it out. But let's go ahead and get into the reading. So today's reading, I really want to focus on number one, basically you 6 months from now. And so I know I've titled this video, are you on the right path? Because I feel like if you see what you're like in 6 months, you're going to know if you're going to want to continue on this energetic pathway. And if there's anything that comes up in the reading that might offer like changes you could make for this, I will definitely include that. So that's basically what we're going to be looking at. So if you already know how pick a cards work, this is 1, 2, and 3. And then there is timestamps down below in the top pinned comment, as well as in the description box, that will help you to get to these. But if you need a little extra help, I do have some crystals here. So first and foremost, on number 1, we have some Bumblebee Jasper. On pile number 2, we have a piece of selenites, or a selenite wand. And on pile number 3, we actually have a piece of malachite. So if any of those strike your fancy or you feel energetically pulled to them, do make sure you choose the corresponding timestamp. You can also look at the timestamp numbers. If your lucky number is present, sometimes that helps me. Maybe from the thumbnail, you already had an idea of which card pile you wanted. Sometimes you might also find that you are drawn to multiple piles. That is completely okay. Some people will literally watch the entire video from start to finish and then decide which one resonated the most for them. Some people will watch 1 and 3, 1 and 2, 2 and 3. You know, it's just whatever you feel pulled to. Just know that ultimately it is you trusting yourself and knowing that you are never going to choose wrong. Even if an entire reading doesn't quite exactly mold to what your life is like, there's still going to be something in the pile that you needed, is at least what I set intention for with my readings. So that is all I'm going to say about that. So again, pile number 1 with the Bumblebee Jasper, 2 with the selenite wand, 3 with the malachite. And I'm going to go ahead and turn up the music and be quiet and give you some time to meditate with these cards so you can make a choice. chose the Bumblebee Jasper, it looks like this, then this is going to be your reading the path that you're on, basically 6 months from now, where you're going to be if you continue this. So I feel like, actually, let me tell you what we have first, and then we'll talk about it. So we have the Prince of Discs, the Seven of Cups, the Six of Swords, the Princess of Cups, and the Princess of Swords. So we have a lot of major court card energy, which is depicted in the Prince and Princess cards here. And I feel like when we talk about the court cards, it's obviously like all of these cards depict different themes that are going on. But I do feel like you kind of already done a lot of work with yourself. And I say that because I feel like we don't get to that stage because the tarot is like, it's a cycle. Like every suit kind of is its own cycle and story. And then we have the archetypes, which are the major arcana. And I feel like you don't get, I just wanted to point this out before we like talk about each card, but you don't get to that stage without having a lot of self-evolution going on. So I first want to say that your guides want you to know that you have come so far on your journey, and many of you I feel like giving up, or you're feeling possibly very distraught over the path that you have come into, or that like maybe it just doesn't feel exactly as you thought it would. And your guides really want you to know that you've come so far and you have done so much work to get where you are. And they really want you to, like, even if you have like an old journal or something that you can reflect on, they really want you to pay attention to that and pat yourself on the back. Because I think many of you are like wanting to get and advance a lot farther, which is fine. And we'll talk about it. But it's almost like you're also not noticing how far you've already come. And it's like we're getting into this state where we're just grasping for the future really hard when we don't even see how beautiful the journey has been. So if you have any place that you can reflect on, or like even looking through your phone at like old pictures, definitely take the time to do that. So I feel like with the Prince of Discs here, this is a lot about going after that like material gain, your finances. You're wanting to kind of, I feel like, bloom into a new life or grow something new. And it doesn't always have to come in the form of material gain. This can come in the form of relationships, a relationship, just something in your life that you've had to plant a seed for and really grow up. And I feel like many of you have been wanting that because, or honestly, I feel like you've kind of already gotten some of it, because the prince is somebody who already has like the great idea, the vision, planted the seed and moved towards it. So I feel like many of you have already kind of hit like a really good stage in 6 months from now, whatever you've planted seeds for, maybe even with this upcoming new moon in Cancer, whatever you set, at least in tropical astrology, whatever you set intention for, when it comes to its grand culmination 6 months after, I feel like you're going to get whatever you've asked for. So this to me is like you manifesting something into your life that maybe has taken work over these next 6 months. So from there, though, I honestly think it's going to be like you're going to get it better than you expected, because with the Seven of Cups, this is about having options. And I feel like from whatever you manifested, you're actually going to have a lot of options come from that, a lot of opportunity, and you will have to make a decision on what opportunities you want to accept and which ones you don't. And some opportunities are not going to be as good. So 6 months from now, you might actually be in a state where you're a little confused, unafraid to make moves, and feeling a little bit more stagnant. But the good news is, like I said, is that you've already manifested something in 6 months that you've set intention for. And it might also be a house, I'm hearing, for some of you too, like a move, a house. But you are going to have to make choices from that. Like maybe you move into this house and it needs certain updates, and you have to think of which updates you want to do first to it, like replacing something in the house, like the water heater or something like that. And that's just an example, but I feel like there are decisions that are going to have to be weighed out and made 6 months from now. With the Six of Swords coming out, I feel like many of you might come to a situation where you're feeling a little more powerless and you're just like along for the ride of whatever it is. And Spirit is saying to me right now that the most important thing you can do is have a sense of humor about it. Like, if something goes wrong, or you've ever had one of those days where like everything just goes wrong, like you stubbed your toe, you shut your hair in the door, you had to drive back home because you left the curling iron on. Obviously, that's only for people that use curling irons, or the coffee pot or whatever. You get stuck in traffic, get a flat tire, you get to work an hour and a half late. Like you just have, I'm sure you just have a day where everything is just going wrong. It's in those moments that Spirit is saying, like, just throw your head back and laugh, because being upset about things that have already happened, it's just going to make you more upset and the people around you more upset, which, don't get me wrong, feel your anger. If you need to scream, scream about it. But the faster you can get to a place of just being able to laugh about it and be like, all right, I'm rolling with it, the easier that transition is going to be. Because the Six of Swords tells me that you're going through an initiative phase. The Six of Swords is an initiation. It is a critical role in journeying elsewhere. So it's not always easy though, especially with a Six of Swords. We have a lot of fears, a lot of doubts, and it's being able to let those fears and doubts be there, but doing things anyways, moving anyways, going forward and doing what you feel best to do anyways, if that makes sense. And then with a Princess of Cups and a Princess of Swords, I actually really like this, because I think where you're headed in the next 6 months, you're coming to a place of having not only a better emotional sense of self, you're also getting psychic upgrades. Some of you might feel like you're more comfortable in your practices. Those of you, I feel like, that are dabbling in like witchcraft or anything like that, I'm hearing from Spirit that you're going to be feeling more confident in your spirituality. You're going to feel like you have ideas and you actually try them out. And it's going to be things like, things are just going to start to actually work. Like things that you're always like, ugh, why does that work for them and not for me? I feel like this original Prince of Discs in 6 months, that original manifestation is going to give you the confidence to continue to put your intention into other things and manifest from that place. I also feel like many of you, life is actually going to be good. And hear me out. With the Princess of Cups, this is expecting good things to happen. And in doing that, good things happen to you. So like sometimes it can be a little bit like La Vie en Rose, life through rose-colored glasses, if you know what I'm saying. But I feel like when we get to that stage, every piece of life just becomes beautiful. And like, I feel like people want to talk shade when it's like, oh, you just look through life with rose-colored glasses. It's not always like that. And yeah, that can be true for one person. But what one person thinks is beautiful, beauty is always in the eye of the beholder. So what one person thinks is beautiful, another person might not. And that's okay to have that separation and differentiation. But I feel like for you, it's like even in the small little minute details or mundane details, you're going to be starting to find joy in that. Finding joy in the way that like warm concrete feels under your bare feet. Finding joy in the way that the flowers smell, the weird noise that the sprinklers make in the morning, like just silly little things that we can get very detached from. This to me is you coming back to that. I feel like many of you, in 6 months, those of you I feel like that have really struggled with a lot of like self-limiting beliefs, self-limiting thoughts, anything that keeps you very up in your head and not in your body, I feel like many of you are actually getting like a big shift in that in 6 months. And it's going to happen. I want to make that very clear. This is a natural progression. This isn't just you wake up 6 months from now on like that day and everything's different. We're talking about the progression. So over the next 6 months. But I feel like from that, life is just going to feel really joyful. Like I'm getting this feeling of just like very calm all over my body. Do you feel it too? I feel like sometimes when I get these feelings, like they're not always my energy, it's your energy feeding off of mine. So, or like it can also come in the form of guides too, and we channel that in when we can. But like, I just got this big feeling of like almost like a relaxed ball of energy, like coming up from my root chakra almost like into the solar plexus. So right under that rib cage area and just expanding out over my whole body. Like it was just like the big sigh of relief we've been waiting for. It just felt really good to take a deep breath there. I feel like many of you that haven't felt like your life has had any sense of calm, that's what you're going to be getting. And you're going to be happy. Like I want to cry because it just like many of you, I feel like haven't had the ability to feel that. Things have been very like scary and rocky, and you've been like almost a prisoner to your own mind and your own thoughts. And we're moving out of that. And then with the Princess of Swords, I feel like this is also going to come with an amplification in how you communicate with others. I think the reason that this is happening is you're setting better boundaries with other people. You are also speaking what you need into existence. So you're using your voice as a manifestation tool. And on top of that, you're communicating your needs and you're not feeling bad about it anymore. Those of you that communicate, like you'll say what you need and then immediately go back into your shell and like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't have asked. Maybe that was too much. You're not doing that anymore. Like 6 months from now, that is like getting a major healing for you. So let's go ahead and move on into, we have some zodiac cards here, some astrology cards, I should say. So we have opposition, balance, relates, mirrors, interacts, confronts, makes conscious, manifests, disciplines, conflicts with tests, objectives, and objectifies and calls out. So some of you might also be calling out behavior in others that you think is very toxic in 6 months. Like there might be some kind of a confrontation that has, that has needed to happen for quite some time, and you're finally getting the space to feel comfortable doing it. We also have Capricorn, the boss. Oh, I love this. Okay. Capricorn energy, we stan. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes y'all Capricorn skepticism gets on my nerves, but you're the best skeptics that we've got. And we need you because not all of us should be trusting blindly. But with the Capricorn, the boss, I love this because I think that it's not just like in a career, often Capricorn gets pushed into like the career mentality. However, I feel like the only reason that happens, especially in America, I will speak from an American perspective because that's what I have. Especially in America, we have capitalism, right? And I feel like everybody likes to talk about Capricorn as being basically like really into capitalism and like being a business person and doing this, and this. And honestly, if we didn't have that societal structure, that's not how Capricorn would play out. Capricorn is somebody that likes to achieve goals. They like to see results from the things that they've done. They like to work for something and see it happen. But like I said, and I'm guilty of this myself, we'll talk about Capricorn as like a boss of a corporation always. And that's just not always the case. Not every Capricorn on the planet wants that for themselves. But let's talk a little bit about these characteristics. So serious, authoritative, ambitious, realistic, structured, traditional, wise, endearing, accomplished, badass. Oh my gosh, this card literally put badass. I love that for us. Majestic, competent, prepared, down to earth, corporate. See, there it is. Even in this card, they put corporate. Reserved, rigid, and disciplined. So I feel like ultimately, it's not about you being like the boss of a corporation, unless that's really what you're after, then yes. But it's not necessarily about that. It's about you being the boss of your own life and knowing what is good for you and what isn't, and having the discernment to live in your authentic truth, having the discernment to not really care if other people challenge the way that you want to live or the way that you want to do things, and just doing them for you because it feels good for you. And just becoming that person that just doesn't really take shit from anybody else, basically. And that doesn't mean that we can't come to compassion and understanding for others. It's that it's time. It's like, it's your turn, basically. Like, have you ever said that to like your spiritual team or to God or whatever? I've been like, when is it going to be my turn? Pile number one, it's finally your turn. Okay. And then we have Chiron healing. So this card says healing powers growth, amends, release, personal development, inherited issues, self-doubt, generational trauma, shame, sensitivity, forgiveness, superpowers, divinity, cleansing, softness, and pain. So I feel like the reason that you are becoming this person is because you've done the work to like work on this. Chiron is in our birth charts in astrology, the wounded healer. And so Chiron can often show us in the birth chart where we might need a little extra healing, where we don't feel necessarily confident and good about ourselves or about situations in our lives. And I feel like many of you over the next 6 months, there is a point of uncertainty where it's like, this feels like too much. That's why the Six of Swords is here. But ultimately, it's through feeling into this that you're going to move forward. A really great friend of mine, as I was struggling a little bit more recently, pointed out to me that I kept experiencing, and I want to reiterate, as I always do, I am not a licensed therapist. Please, please, please always seek professional help. Do not use my readings in this way. You will be using them wrong if you are using them like as like basically like a prescription from like a psychologist. Don't do that. I'm not licensed to be able to do that, but I do study a lot of psychology as a student of psychology, and I believe in bridging the gap between spirituality and psychology. But a really great friend of mine, I was experiencing panic attacks a little while ago, or not too long ago, in the very recent past, and it was so awful. I'd never experienced anything like that. And this might be you experiencing something like this, or experiencing just like really high levels of anxiety, or even just doubt, worry, limiting beliefs, however that manifests for you. And I was so petrified because I'd never felt like this before. And if you've ever had a panic attack, like it feels like you're dying, and it's horrible. And I would never wish it upon anyone. But something that she said to me that I think is really valuable for this reading is, oftentimes when we experience those really intense emotions and it keeps coming up, it keeps resurfacing, it's like a wave that has come up, but you're not allowing that wave to crest over and drop back down, because that's what waves do, right? They come up to a high and then they crash back down to shore and then they go back out. And when you're stuck in that state, like I was, it's like this wave, I was just like powerfully trying to force it back down instead of letting it crash over me. And it wasn't until I was able to stop and go into that place in my body that was storing what was going on, that I was actually able to make a full release and let the wave crash over and then come back to center. And it's really hard, deep work. Like when we talk about doing shadow work and inner work, that's the stuff that is a part of that. Not everybody needs to do that. Not everybody experiences that. But I feel like when we're talking about that deep level of healing, that's something that you might need to be working through over the 6 months, especially as we have these waves looking like they're ready to swallow this person up. And it might be that something, we store trauma in the body. It's not always just something that we can control from the mental intellect. We have to drop into the body to actually release that. And there are so many videos on YouTube about this out there that you can look at. I don't have anything in particular because, again, I'm not a licensed professional and I don't feel like I have the criteria or the credential to speak on that and give you like a step-by-step. But I feel like with this deep internal healing that you've been working on, it's like something that has really been haunting you for a long time is no longer going to have that power over you 6 months from now. And so this also really makes me want to cry because I know how horrible that feels. And maybe not in the same way that you're experiencing it if this is you, but like it could be something totally different. But it feels awful when you're just in this perpetual state of fear, worry, being scared, self-limiting belief. And when that finally, it's almost like you've been like drowning in a bathtub and somebody finally just comes up and pulls the plug, and that somebody is you. And all of a sudden you can breathe again. And it just, again, I'm feeling like in 6 months, we're getting a big dose of calm, which is funny because we have some interesting cards after this, but I'll explain. Sorry, just let me breathe for a second. Sorry if I made any of y'all cry. I know that happens sometimes, or you're already crying and I'm feeling it. Okay, so we have chaos and conflicts, number 33, which we have a couple like master numbers here. So 33, chaos and conflict, and then 44, the thinker. The thinker, that's a hard word to say. So 44 and 33, those might be significant to you. Like you might see 444 on the clock a lot, or 333, or even just 44 and 33 might be really important to you. But with chaos and conflicts, I feel that the reason this is coming up, especially with master number 33, this is about being a master of chaos and conflict, which sounds really badass when you put it that way. But it's about becoming like harnessing the parts of you that are in resistance to conflict with others, to chaos within self. And I feel like that's ultimately 6 months from now, you're going to like chaos and conflict. Who is she? We don't know her. Like it's you mastering that part of you, coming to a full mastery of self in that way so that you have like the tools, the knowledge, and the wherewithal to live your life on your own terms. And with thinker, I do want to caution all of y'all that maybe what I felt called to share about like the panicking and things like that, some of you might just be really, 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 really up in your head about things. And I would encourage you to look at somatic healing. I would encourage you to look at like full body healing, bottom up, or top down, bottom up healing, where you're not just looking at the mind and what psychology can offer you. You're looking beyond that, because a lot of times, I mean, gosh, even when we shake, it has been shown that like that's our body's natural mechanism to help our body release trauma. Like if you shake after having like a really high adrenaline dump in your body, basically your adrenaline's high because you feel like you're in danger. After the fact, you might tremble for a little while, and that is your body's natural mechanism to help dissipate that trauma. And we see it in dogs, we see it in children, even in like I want to say it's like war vets that suffer from like PTSD. They'll work to activate that like left and right, almost like shaking to help relieve the trauma. And I feel like if we're just thinking we can think ourselves through it, you might need more than that over the next 6 months. You might need to go a little bit deeper and find, even if you're somebody that's in the realm of like therapy, talking to somebody in that regard, it might be a benefit to you to look for somebody that works in EMDR or what's the other, somatic healing. That just might be something beneficial for you. Like I said, I'm not a medical professional. Please, please, please do not ever use my readings that way. But just some things to think about. So we also have for you the horse card. Oh, let me put this a little higher. You can't really see it very well. We have the horse card for you, and we have the octopus. And the horse I love. I mean, I love both, but the horse I really love here because the horse, to me, horses always resemble free spirits. That to me is like the medicine that the horse brings to us, the message of the horse. It brings to us that message of being a free spirit. You know, have you ever seen a wild horse before? If you haven't, you should really look it up. Wild horses are just so majestic and beautiful. And I feel like, again, if you felt like you haven't had a sense of freedom, 6 months from now, that's a theme that's coming out for you, is more freedom in life and more balance and harmony. Because the octopus, not only does the octopus have like literally, what is it, like 8 arms, I believe? I think it's 8. Octo, I think that's 8. Has like 8 different arms, right? That can do all kinds of stuff. But I want to say it's the octopus and not squid that they also change colors to like camouflage in their surroundings. And if I'm wrong on this, I apologize. But I feel like ultimately that also gives you this beautiful ability to adapt to your surroundings, no matter where you are. Many of you, I feel like I'm just getting this energy of like somebody that has felt very disconnected from yourself. And I feel like that connection is what is coming back, and it's allowing you to honor your life in a different way. So I feel like the trajectory of your life going like now until 6 months is honestly a really beautiful evolution of healing. And so, like, don't fret wherever you are now, even though we have this like initial, oh, I manifested this thing, let's keep going. I feel like the thing that people don't talk about in the realm of like law of attraction, manifestation, stuff like that, is a lot of it takes a lot of deep inner work to even get there. It takes a lot of deep inner work to like reprogram your neural pathways to think differently, especially if you've been programmed to think a different way, which all of us, I would argue, have, unless you love the way that you think, which awesome. Props to whoever brought you into this world or whoever like influenced that. But I feel like ultimately, if that's what you've been looking for, like that's the path that you're on. And I want to include in this, like, healing sometimes can be very like scary and unsettling and unsure. And am I doing it right? Am I doing the right thing? Is this really correct? And just try your best to honor yourself and where you're headed. So we also I have 3 more cards for you. We have the card of Serenity. Value quiet days with only the rustling leaves breaking the silence. I love that. So this is what I was talking about, getting in touch with like the small details in life that really bring joy. Rest, slow down. You don't have to solve everything today. So again, this is a progression of 6 months. It's not going to be in one day. And then weed, don't tolerate less than you deserve. All right. So that is what I have for you, pile number 1. I feel like this reading was very, very deep. It was. We've got a lot of big healing energy coming through. And like I said, your guides want you to know that you've come a long way and they're really proud of you. And just trust yourself above anything else, above anyone else. Trust yourself at this time and keep going. You've got it. All right. I love you so much, pile number 1. Please do not forget, when you stand up in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and on TikTok and hit that subscribe button, as I put out new pick cards every single week if you haven't done so already. And of course, I have my Patreon where we put out exclusive readings, all the stuff I talked to you about in the beginning. There's some really cool stuff up right now, or about to be going up if it's not up yet. And if you feel called to do so, it is never an expectation, but always appreciated. I have my Cashapp, Venmo, and PayPal listed down below. If you would like to tip me for my readings, I will very much graciously accept that. If not, or if you don't feel called to do so, again, I don't expect that of you. So thank you so much to those of you that do, though. I definitely appreciate it. I try my best to always put it back into the channel with like new cards, new things like that, new camera gear. And unless you tell me otherwise in like the comment of whatever, then I won't. But that's usually what it goes towards. So thank you so much. We've been able to grow so much recently. Our channel has almost like doubled in size this year. So thank you so much. And I love you so much, my pumpkin. I'll talk to you again soon. All right, pile number 2, if you chose the selenite wand, this is your reading. So for you, we have the Princess of Discs, the Wheel of Fortune, the Seven of Wands, the High Priestess, and Judgment. And I feel like with these cards, so basically what we're looking at is kind of a progression over like now till 6 months from now to see kind of where we're going to be at. So I feel like what I'm really seeing is I feel like you're going to go through a lot of change. And I say that because the Wheel of Fortune in particular, especially coming in as a major arcana card, actually you have 3 of those here, but the Wheel of Fortune usually is about big changes, big upheavals, big, like it can also be like big windfalls of money, like it's big dramatic change. So whatever you have been putting work into with the Princess of Discs, I feel like you are going to see a dramatic shift. And the Wheel of Fortune, to me, I love this card. This is a card that, to me, this can be like new jobs, new homes, new partners, more children. This to me is like something that is very big that we've put energy towards, but it comes to us bigger and better than we ever could have expected. And this card is also about karma too. Like we never, like the wheel represents the wheel of karma. And based on our actions and our alignments and what we have been working towards, that can kind of depict what the wheel of karma is going to look like for us. So if you've been putting a lot of good karma out there, this is one of those like, oh, this will be a great thing. This will be a very fortuitous time. But if you haven't, the changes can be a lot more volatile. But you know better than I do what kind of person you are and how you do things in your life. So this is not to condemn you or anything like that. Just pay attention to how your actions are lining up in your world right now, because when the Wheel of Fortune comes out, like I said, it can be like karmic retribution. So it can be very volatile if you have been just not being a good person. And that's like however you rule your own moral compass. I'm not here to tell you how to be like a morally good person. That's not my job. Everybody kind of gets to decide that individually. So then we have the Seven of Wands, which I actually really like this card because it's like it's like shots fired at you, but you have such like an amazing spiritual team on your side, and you are armored with such resilience that it doesn't matter and you don't care. I also feel like though 6 months from now, you could be going through something that really like shifts your perspective on something. So this could be like you learn something new that just totally transforms the way that you see certain people or the way that you operate in life. And from that, you might want to tell everybody else, like, oh my gosh, look at this cool thing I just learned. And everybody else is like, no, we're not having those shenanigans here. Like, no thanks. Even if you're totally right, they just don't want to hear it. And I feel like this is you continuing to stand up for yourself and being resilient in it. And I like this for you because it actually leads us into the High Priestess with having that deep inner knowing, deep self-trust. And I have to tell you something, pile number 2. With a Seven of Wands, and then we have a Judgment card following it up here at the end, those people that made fun of you, those people that didn't agree with what you were saying, or like this is also like almost to me the energy of like starting a brand or something, or starting a business or a project, or like taking your music career seriously, or writing a book and saying like, I'm going to do this, or so-and-so is going to publish me, or, whatever you're putting your endeavors into. This is like people not believing in you, you going inside to like do your own thing, work on it yourself. And then it goes so well that everybody wants your autograph. Everybody wants to work with you. All the people that booed you are like, oh no, you're doing great things. Oh my gosh, tell me how you did that. This, I feel like you're getting like, we talked about this in a recent reading too. This is like your redemption arc. Like 6 months from now, whatever people have told you you can't do or shouldn't do, or like you maybe have even had your own self-doubts and fears. This can be very resemblant. Is that even a word? This can resemble your own limiting self-beliefs holding you back. And you are at this point where you're like, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're not thinking that way anymore. We're not like doing things in that way anymore. And so the High Priestess and Judgment, like you're doing the inner work behind it. And you literally come out as like the greatest version of yourself. This is like Judgment to me is that like big, I don't even want to say leadership card, because I don't even think that that's it. It's like you're just doing something so well and you're so confident in it that other people want to hear, like you've gotten recognition for it. Other people want to hear how you got to where you are. And I think this is something that many of you maybe have even been waiting for. So whatever that project is that you have been putting off, now through the next 6 months, if you like actually get to work on this, I see this going extremely well for you. So we love to see it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the astrology cards that we have. So we have Cancer Doula, says feeling sympathetic, comforting, nostalgic, Protective, intuitive, birthing, leader. Oh no, sorry, this is tender, not leader. Tender, nocturnal, caring, moody, receptive, lunar, sentimental, introverted, defensive, and family oriented. Okay. We're going to lay down all three of the astrology cards before we talk about it. We have North Node Destiny. I cannot make this shit up. Soul School, learning curve, fulfillment, purpose, maturing, experience, fruition, North Star, development, practice, path, beacon, blossoming, becoming, integrity, and journey. Ooh, I told y'all. Something is going to put you on the path. Like something over the next 6 months is going to put you right on the path with like alignment with your destiny. And it's going to be explosive because we also have this, I think it's a star, but the moment that I saw it, I heard the word like explosion. And then we have the 4th house, which says roots, family, home, background, comfort, cooking, inner world, real estate, shelter, self-care, rejuvenation, habits, and shell. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it because Cancer also rules the 4th house. Like these are very complementary because literally the 4th house is the house of Cancer. And the North Node coming into your destiny. So honestly, I feel like those of you that chose this pile, you might have this belief of yourself that you're like too soft for this world, too sensitive for this world, that like, why would people even ever listen to anything you have to say? Because like, you're always willing to like question what you think about things you don't see in a black and white way. And what you haven't realized yet is this is your superpower. You have the ability to make others comfortable just with your own energy, but also the way you articulate and the way that you think. Like, the way that you think, because you are not set. And I don't know why this is coming, like this is like direct channel from spirit. You are not somebody that is so set in the way that you think. You're mutable. And this is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. It's great to have conviction in something, but because you are mutable, it allows for the complexity of others. It allows for the complexity of what you're building. You allow for the complexity of yourself. And in doing so, it might like, that might sound like, how does that make sense? How can you have a firm foundation and be flexible like that? But because you have this beautiful ability to do this and not be so set on everything, like, I feel like even in the way you communicate with others, I'm hearing like you're always willing to like hear somebody else out and hear their side before making judgments. Like you're that person that if somebody comes to you and like talks all this shit about someone, you're the person that's like, oh, I really wonder what their side of the story is. Like you want to hear the person that they were talking about side of the story because you don't just take things at face value. And honestly, we need more of people like you in this world. But with 4th house, Cancer, North Node, you're literally laying down the foundation over the next 6 months and leading into the next 6 months for a like successful homestead, like your home, for a successful home to be like, honestly, just like vibing in whatever the energy that you feel gets you feeling like very creative, calm, and comforted. And I feel like your home might even be changing in the next 6 months, like a move, or you've like found the home of your dreams and like somehow you magically qualify for it. Like that's the energy we're dipping into. Many of you are going to be feeling a new sense of serenity or sereneness. Serenity, I guess is the right word, like serene, just around your home spaces. And it's going to allow you to create from there. And then with the North Node, like I said, something is going to put you on the path of your destiny. I love this for you. So then we also have for you the card Serendipity. Oh my gosh. And Flexible. I literally just, how does it, how does it happen? How? Tarot is so crazy. So not like, first of all, serendipity. Literally something that you are building, something that you have done, something that you've put like some effort into. You're going to like upload something at the right time. that's just going to happen so serendipitously. You're going to write something at the right time for the right person. You're going to meet the, like something, there is something very serendipitous about this reading that like I said, that Wheel of Fortune is the one that really struck me. I was like, oh, there is like a major life change coming, but it's very serendipitous as well. I would honestly say if you're having any like fear around this Wheel of Fortune, like what is going to uproot next, it's not like that. It's not this big scary thing that is going to push you to a new level of discomfort. And I like that might have been your initial fear because you've experienced that. But the fourth house in Cancer tell me that you're going to be safe. Cancer to me is a very safe, nurturing energy to be in. And even though you might be pushed towards destiny, like your core foundation is safe. Your home life is safe. Your relationships, unless they're going against you, are safe. Like, the most important thing though is going to be you remaining very flexible in how you see things. Because the minute you get set on something with any project that you're working on, anything that you're doing, anything that you're creating, anything that, like, even when it comes to like a house, because for some reason, a house came through strongly initially, but even with a house, remain very flexible with the process. If there's more paperwork that's needed, if a counter offer is made, if something like that and you're wanting it so bad, allow yourself to be flexible with it and watch other people end up like dropping their bids and you end up getting the house. It's like something like that. Like it's going to work together in your favor. So whatever you've put intention into, it's going to pick up speed over the next 6 months. You just have to keep going towards it, keep believing in yourself. And if people don't believe in you, you don't have to listen to them. You can go into your own inner temple and pay attention to you. So we also have the Hawk and the Scorpion. Oh, this is, I love this. This whole reading is just like blowing my own mind. Okay, so first and foremost, with the Scorpion card, some of y'all might just be Scorpios or have Scorpio in your big three, which is Sun, Moon, Rising, or Cancer as well. But the Scorpion, what the like medicine that comes from this animal, or like the message that this animal brings to us, is Scorpions are very strategic, right? They don't just attack anything and everything. They will wait until the perfect moment and strike when the iron's hot. And I feel like for you, that's literally what's happening, is even without you recognizing it, you're going to be striking when the iron's hot. And that is why you're going to be so successful in what you're doing, because it's going to be like the most fortuitous time. It's like nobody's even on the trend and you were on it first, even without being there. Does that make sense? Like even without knowing that was up and coming, like you're the person that made the trend. And then with Hawk, I feel like this is honestly a gift for your future self, because, you know, we're talking about 6 months from now anyways. A gift from your future self is going to be having the ability to keep this steady, whatever it is. Like if it's like, again, I keep going back to a house, even if a house isn't your thing, but it's just the analogy we're working with today. If it's a house, it's going to be keeping that home front very steady, being able to have a routine where it stays clean to the way that you like it, where you're able to make rent every month effortlessly. If it's a project you've been working on, the most important thing you can do, and like write this down, especially those of you that are creatives, do not allow yourself to get stuck in whatever that trend is. The more you can allow yourself to be flexible and try new things and not try to like crack the code of an algorithm or crack the code of what everybody's going to be talking about, and just let yourself be yourself, that is going to be what is going to like make you shine the brightest, is allowing yourself to be flexible and try different things. And the Hawk, I feel like this not only gives you like the intuitive hits to see it from like an outer perspective, like you being like, if you were a hawk, being up in the sky and being able to see everything out, like a bigger picture perspective, basically. it gives you bigger picture perspective so you don't stay stuck, because that happens when we create. Like, let's think about an author. They write a book and then they end up staying in that niche forever, and none of their other books are as successful, so they just kind of keep going back to that same niche. Or we take somebody with like the house that you're trying to manifest. You know, we think we're not going to get it because somebody puts in another offer. So we just give up and say, I guess that one's not for me. We'll rescind the offer, you know, instead of just waiting it out. Staying stuck in that mentality that you're not able to manifest what you're asking for. Or it gives you this ability to not stay stagnant, and you're literally in alignment with your destiny. Pile number 2, something that you really need to hear right now, Spirit is telling me, is you're in alignment with your destiny right now. Like right now, what you are doing, you are already in alignment with it. There isn't something that you need to change, something you need to heal, something you need to do. You're already in alignment with it. And because of that, you're being led over the next 6 months more and more and more into it. So many of you, I feel like, are stressing it. Like, you're scared that, like, what is my purpose? What is my this or that? No, you're already in alignment with it. And then I have 3 more cards for you. These are just like little, I don't even know what to call these cards. They're cute though. I like them. You'll see. So we have the card of potential. The littlest key can open the heaviest door. So again, I think this is just like whatever ideas you start acting on right now over the next 6 months, something's going to pop off. In a good way. Surprises. Venture down the rabbit hole. I feel like that kind of speaks for itself. And relax. Delight in powdered gold sunshine. So Spirit is also saying, those of you that are able to, obviously weather is different for everybody and it depends on what you are able to do, how hot it is. But if you are able to do so, try to get out in the early morning, especially if it's hot where you live. Like, even if you wake up and do this and then go back to bed, try if you have the ability. I also want to say, like, I know some people work graveyard and it's just like not a possibility for you. But if you are able to, try to set up a routine where you catch more sunrises. Whenever I see this card, this to me is about getting more of that vitamin D from the sun naturally. And even if you, like I said, roll right back into bed, you're just not a morning person, I am not asking you to change it. However, if you are able to get up with the sun, even just to see more sunrises, to get that sun on your skin for even 5 minutes, 10, 15 minutes would be even better. But, you know, before we get into like the heat of the day and it's just like death to be outside, depending on what climate you live in. Where I am, it's way too hot in the middle of the day, at least for now. Eventually I will be somewhere else. But I feel like this is a call to really honor the sunshine. And maybe even just find ways in which to honor the sun. This might be like cleansing your tarot decks with the sun, cleansing your crystals with the sun. Obviously, you want to make sure that they're crystals that can be left out in the sun. There are so many things like the sun gives to us endlessly, right? Helps all of our plants grow. It provides warmth, it provides light, and it doesn't ask us for a freaking thing in return. So find ways to honor the sun. Maybe you even want to paint the sun, right? Whatever you're into, find ways to honor the sun. And I really feel like that can bring you a new like sense of relaxation, especially because even this high priestess, she's sitting in the dark, but it looks like she almost has golden like sunbeams over her. That's really cool. And also the judgment card has the sun behind it. Or at least that's what it looks like to me. It looks like a sun. It almost looks like a sunflower with like, it's hard to tell probably on camera with the little details, but that is what I have for you, pile number 2. Please do not forget, when you stand up in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. I love you so, so, so much. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, on TikTok. I'm at Kloee Taylor. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you want more readings from me in your inbox every single week. It's free and I put out new stuff every week. And if you feel called to do so. I have my Cash App, Venmo, PayPal listed down below. I do accept tips for my readings. It's never an expectation, but always appreciated. And I also have my Patreon where you can get exclusive readings from me, all kinds of goodies. Printables are going to be coming soon to the Patreon, so it's going to be a good time. Lots of fun stuff. And I love you so much, Pumpkin, and I'll talk to you again soon. All right, pile number 3, welcome into your reading. If you chose the Malachite, then this is your pile. So we have for you the Four of Wands, the Six of Cups, the Tower, the Two of Wands, and the King of Discs. And I feel like this is just a very powerful reading. And I'm going to start right in the middle with the Tower. So I also want to say that yes, this is you in 6 months, but this is also the progression into those 6 months. So some of these things might be happening as we progress there. You're not just going to wake up on the first day after 6 months and all of this is going to be happening. So I want to start with the Tower because every time we see a Tower, I feel like if you're familiar with the tarot, it is immediately an OMG moment. And it can be really unsettling stuff, but the Tower ultimately represents something that you've built up really hard in your head that needs to crumble down so that you can rebuild on a firmer foundation. And to be honest with you, pile number 3, I feel like the instance of what I'm getting from this Tower is we have the Four of Wands and the Six of Cups here. I feel like this has something to do with your past, your family, or like a home relationship or a childhood friend, possibly somebody you grew up with, because the Four of Wands talks about celebration and also our home, like the structure of our home. And the Six of Cups is about relationships from the past. So I feel like for many of you, this crumbling down, there might be some people that you need to lose. And I don't mean in like a death situation. I just mean there might be some people you need to move away from. There might be a breakup that needs to happen. There might be family that you need to distance yourself from. There might be a restructuring that needs to happen. Some of you might just have like parents that are going to be separating or something of that regard. Now, I want to assure those of you that chose this pile before anybody starts worrying that you, like, when I see these things, this is not a shot in the dark. This is something that you would already be privy to. Like, you would already see this energy building. If it had to do with parents, you would already see them not necessarily in alignment with one another anymore, or you would see a friendship that just hasn't really been going very smoothly, or maybe you're in a relationship right now that there's just been a lot of bumps that we've made excuses for. So I feel like you would already know this isn't something that's going to just be ripped out from underneath you. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise, basically. And if it's not relational for you, this could also be you just needing to go back as the older version of yourself, as you are now, to that inner child, back to where you grew up, reliving some of those things from the past so that you can heal them, or meeting up with friends from the past to kind of fit together. Like some of you, I'm hearing you don't necessarily have a lot of early childhood memories. And part of this restructuring is going to be you learning more about that, learning more about the earlier years of your life, learning more about where you've come from, or questioning the structures of where you've come from. So for some of you, it could be like actually physically people. For some of you, it's going to be a very mental thing that's going on. And then with the Two of Wands and the King of Discs, the reason I was so like, oh, this might be about relationships is because this to me is almost you moving forward with less people. And I don't want you to look at this like it's a bad thing. Honestly, if there are people that you need to lose for a little while or possibly forever, it's for your betterment, because the Two of Wands tells me that it's time for you to start moving in a new direction without the weight of this on top of you. And the King of Discs tells me whatever you decide to do, in 6 months, you're going to be so successful at it. It's time for you to come into your own. And that could be a new job. That could be moving to a new area. I think it's really interesting. Every single pile had a start or you have the ending with a Pentacles card. And everybody else kind of started from this place of planting seeds where you're actually ending with a full culmination of whatever you have put seeds into. But I do feel like there's going to be a point where you're going to be a little bit more tested with whatever that is in the middle. So you might have started out with like a celebration and like, we're talking about like kind of like zooming out and looking at the big picture now, not like chronologically from what we were just talking about. So I feel like at the start, you might have done like something that was a little bit more celebratory or started with some really high hopes and intentions, dove into some of the past, maybe come up with some things that we weren't really wanting to face, but it's important that we do. We started making new choices from that experience. And then we're ending out on the King of Discs, which the King of Discs is somebody that has the financial grounds to do what they need to for themselves. Like if you, pile number 3, were concerned about money over the next 6 months, you're going to be more financially secure. You're coming into a more financially secure time. And for part of you, like I said, that could be going through a breakup and maybe you're worried that you won't have the money without this person, but you will. You're actually going to be better off without them. Or it could also be that in order to lose some of these things that we've held on to for so long, and journeying kind of off on our own for a little bit, we give ourselves this amount of nurture, tender love, and kindness, and we come out abundant in every form. You know, ask yourself what abundance means to you. It doesn't have to be an abundance of money. It can be an abundance of love, an abundance of self-care, an abundance of friendship, an abundance of even like literal physical nature. Maybe you want to be surrounded by nature more. So I feel like we almost have for you, I don't know why, but I heard like the phrase like book, like we're starting with something really exciting. The middle has like this big climactic turning point, and then the ending at the end of the 6 months is more about like, honestly, you getting what you asked for, you getting what you want, and coming to a better sense of self and understanding and safety. I'm hearing like safety as well. Like I said, any of you that are worrying about your finances or worrying about what this upset is, or if there's any kind of worry, have confidence that in 6 months, you're going to be fine. So we also have for you the Gemini card, which says the butterfly, curious, communicative, versatile, flexible, variety seeker, social, collaborative, brilliant, perceptive, connected, vocal, adaptive, street smart, mobile, studious, superficial, restless, and fidgety. So something I want to point out, and I don't know why I didn't when I first saw it, is some of you might also have butterflies are like very significant to you because butterflies actually carry the symbolism of transformation. Because if we think about what a butterfly is, it's a caterpillar that literally goes into a chrysalis, becomes goo, and then becomes a butterfly, this deep level of transformation. So butterflies might be very significant to you, or roses. Every time this comes out, I feel like I always connect to the same person for some reason. Some of y'all have like rose or butterfly tattoos, and you got them with that symbolism in mind. Or they hold like a symbolism of an ancestor for you. It could be like a grandparent or like a mother, some kind of divine feminine figure that has passed away in your life. You might have a tattoo that honors them this way. And I feel like that's how you'll also have confirmation that this is your pile. Because butterflies are coming out twice here. We have them on this 6 of Cups, and then we have them here on the Gemini card. So deep levels of transformation. I'm going to lay down all of the astrology cards and then we'll talk about them. So we have the 8th house of intimacy, which is about investments, intensity, contracts, sex, erotic capital, secrets, mysteries, obsessions, inheritance, kundalini energy, stalking, and the underworld. Ooh, I just got the chills. Actually, that's really interesting. This is such a side note, like 8 side stories. But I'm going through my 8th house transit right now, And I have pulled like multiple cards that talk about the underworld in my own personal readings for myself. And I didn't even consider that the eighth house also represents the underworld. That's so crazy. Then we have, which also, if you're a Sagittarius rising, you would be going through your eighth house right now as well. Sixth house, craft, work, details, health, well being, diet, service, daily rituals, contributions, organization, purification, skills, apprenticeship, and method. So I feel like over the next 6 months, coming into this next phase, this path in your life, with the sixth and the eighth house, I honestly see this as very powerful. The sixth house is represented by the sign of Virgo. The eighth house is represented by the sign of Scorpio. And then we have Gemini here in the middle. So those could be in your big three. It'd be really funny if your big three consisted of all three of these. But the sixth house, this is really our house of health. And I feel like this makes sense to me because especially if we're looking at your own inner world or your relationships, it doesn't have to be physical health. Oftentimes, our like what we go through in our like mental day to day, it can transmute into the physical, like, and that is like a whole loaded topic as well that I believe I've covered before in a podcast on my old podcast that I used to run with my in real life twin flame. The podcast is literally called Twin Flames. All the episodes are still up if you're ever wanting to look into that. It was a podcast all about spirituality and psychology. So if you like stuff like this here, you might like those episodes. It's not a podcast that we run anymore. We just both don't feel pulled to it right now, even though like we're still best friends. But I just thought I would throw that out there. That might be something you feel pulled to at this time. But with the sixth house, it is about physical health as well. But I feel like because you are putting yourself first, because that's really what this is about. When we go through this tower moment and come out better on the other side, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment, we're putting our own betterment first. And it's not a selfish thing to do. It's actually quite selfless because when we vibrate at our highest, that just like it's like when you say like when one member of your soul circle wins, like everybody wins. It trickles down. And so when you vibrate at your highest, everybody around you also wins. So interesting that would be coming out for you. I feel like you might be getting like a big up level in that way. With Gemini, I feel like this is actually a blessing over the tower because Gemini is the duality, right? Gemini really talks to us about both sides of like the same coin. And so if you're going through something that feels really difficult, the energy feels really intense, things need to shift, having the mindset, and we talked about this a little bit in pile number 2 as well. They didn't have the tower, but we talked about being non-black and white thinking. So if you felt called to pile number 2, I would encourage you to also go and listen to it. But with this, I feel like you're actually in a really healthy place and not judging what you're going through so harshly. And that's actually making this process easier for you. And then with the 8th house intimacy, I wonder if y'all are going to be like signing a contract for a house or something, because the 8th house does deal in like shared debt. And that can be shared like with a partner. That can also like, and it's not just like romantic partner. This is like business partners too. But it can also be, like basically the contract between like the person who wrote up the contract and you. So like shared contracts. And it deals with also technically like the occult and secrets and things like that. But I feel like ultimately this is you allowing yourself to expand finally. I feel like many of you have maybe felt very trapped where you've been. And after this big upheaval, you're going to feel like you're finally allowed to expand. Because even if we look at this image on the 2 of Wands, it kind of starts out with like this light center and it ripples out into darker, more deeper colors, more depth. And so I feel like many of you have maybe felt like you've been very stuck in that center. And you're actually going to be allowed to expand over the next 6 months. And you're going to step out into a position that is even better for you. I love it. It's beautiful. Okay, we have more cards though. So we have Unfinished Symphony, number 10, which also condenses down to a 1. And we have Community, number 8. We have an 8 and an 8. Oh my goodness. Or I don't know if any of y'all's lucky number is like 888 or something, but that's really cool that we have the double 8. I really love it when, like, if y'all don't even have a spiritual sign, I think making it 888 is really cool. It's not mine necessarily, but I always love to see 888 because it's something you don't see often. Like, think about that. You don't see 888 on a clock ever because we don't count up to 88 minutes. So, like, when you see triple eights or double eights, like, it's just not as common as like 1111 or 222 or 333 or 444. I feel like those numbers we see more often, but whenever I see like an X, like more than 1 8, I'm always like, oh my gosh. I don't know. I think it's a cool spiritual symbol. So with Unfinished, and also, sorry, I need to say that with 888 in particular, like a triple eight, usually that is a symbol of abundance coming your way. So with the Unfinished Symphony coming out over here, are y'all feeling stuck? I'm not laughing at you, I promise. I feel like I have to say that every time that I chuckle when I'm reading something kind of serious. I swear it's because I'm a Gemini moon, and it's not that it's funny. It's that anytime something feels like heavy, I swear that's like Gemini's way of like deflecting is by laughing. I apologize. It's like involuntary. But with Unfinished Symphony, I feel like many of you feel, like I said, you feel like you're unable to expand. And we have this like blue egg that this girl is sitting on. I feel like you maybe even feel like you're in like an incubation period where you're not even able to hatch. That's why we have this Unfinished Symphony or like unfinished business. And what is that? Hold on. Let me look at this card. There's a bird. It's not a hummingbird, which is what I thought it was at first. It looks like a bird. There's 2 birds on this card, actually. There's a couple birds and there's some music notes going on. Birds could also be very significant for you, but I feel like some of you feel like something is unfinished, maybe even in your relationships, like you've put something on pause. And you've told yourself like you would table it and come back to it. Even if this is like with a partner, maybe you said you would work on something. I'm hearing from Spirit that like this is something that maybe even happened back in like February, and it's time to put it back on the table now and see what happens. Those of you that this is true, this might be a specific message for a very specific person. So just give me a second to channel this one out, but I feel like there's something that happened in February that y'all tabled and you were like, oh, we're going to like try to do this thing, or we'll come back to it when we have time. And it could have even been an argument, and it's time to bring that back up. It's time to be serious about not making something happen, but I feel like many of you have given like a lot of chances to someone, and they have yet to show you that they want to be as committed as you do to your relationship. And this doesn't have to be romantic. This can also be familiar or friendship. Like maybe many of you put like a brakes on a friendship and you said you'd come back to it, or family members like you don't speak to as much, something like that. Something got tabled and there is unfinished business between the two of you. And that I feel like is what this is. Especially because Gemini also talks about like Gemini is representational of the lovers as well in the Rider-Waite-Smith Coleman Tarot. Or just Rider-Waite-Smith, I guess, because I think it's Pamela Coleman Smith. But yeah, something's going on here. Something is unfinished here. And it's actually blocking you from being able to progress where you want to. And I feel like those of you that heard this, again, you already know. Or like if that is like about you, you already know. And this is like really ringing true. if not, if you don't feel like you have unfinished business with someone that you've like tabled for a little bit, I do feel like there might be a manifestation that you've kind of put on hold because you feel like you have to wait for something specific to get it. And now is the time that you're being told to pick it back up. So for some of you, this could be like writing a book. This could be working on like stream if you're a Twitch streamer. This could be working on that YouTube channel, working on literally a music career of some kind, working on like your next degree in school. I feel like there's something that feels very unfinished to you. And that's going to be a major theme over these next 6 months, is going to be completing whatever this unfinished business is. And even if it ends up staying in your life, there's going to be a climactic moment before it comes back down into something better. Okay, so we also have for you the nightingale, and we have for you the starfish. And I actually want to pull the book on these because, sorry, I have to actually get the, I found it. Okay. I just haven't seen these cards. Usually when it comes to the animal cards, I can kind of, because I know a lot about animals, like I can kind of intuit them. But I feel like with these, I maybe have seen the nightingale before, but I don't think we've pulled the starfish before. So we're just going to go ahead and flip through the book that came with this and just see what it has to offer us. Okay. So honestly, this card I do feel like is about like balancing. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. So it talks about like superficiality and stuff and like beauty, but ultimately I feel like in correspondence to these cards on this side, I feel like the starfish is really about getting clear on what your needs are and to not base your decisions with other people off of what the world thinks it should be. And I think that maybe has been a theme for a while with you in relationships. Like maybe you don't see relationships the way the rest of the world does. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to be like walked all over. This doesn't mean you have to keep giving somebody chance after chance after chance. Like, I feel like inherently you are a good person and you do want to make things work with people in your life. You want to be somebody that like helps problem solve, things like that. But it's also okay for you to have your own personal standards. It's human, in fact. And we're not here to transcend the human experience, contrary to popular belief. We're here to embody the fullest expression of human. That's why we chose to come here and do it this way. And to like embody humans is to have the fullest expression of human, whatever that means to you, which is different for every person. So I feel like for you, it's time to not really base your decisions with people on what is right or fair or what makes you look like a good person. It's time to actually ask yourself, even if it's ugly, like even if it's, and I say ugly with like big air quotes, because like I said, I don't think this is very like, you are somebody that gives so much and your way is never going to be like the rest of the world. So stop letting other people tell you how to handle your situation, or stop doing things in a certain way because you feel like you like will feel like a bad person or you'll have all this regret or what have you. Just be true to yourself. And then the nightingale, I haven't pulled this one yet. Let's see. The nightingale is all about having a fearless voice and speaking your truth in song. Honestly, when it's in balance, it talks about like basically singing and speaking freely with kindness. But when it's imbalanced, there's a lump in the throat, like we can't speak. And I feel like, honestly, because it's coming off the side of the tower this way, it's going to give you the ability to speak up for yourself. And like I said, birds might also hold a special significance for you. So we also need to talk about this community card. I didn't even talk about it yet. I felt really pulled to pull these first. But with Nightingale, I just feel like many of you have a lot of truth inside of you, but you don't speak it because there's a lot of fear involved. And I feel like after this upswing for you, you're going to have the courage to start speaking and moving in the world the way that you've always wanted to. Does that make sense? Okay. And then with community, I feel like those of you that are building something, this I feel like is a very specific message, like period. This might not even like be for everybody that picked this pile, but this is just a message here. Spirit is saying that if you're building a community of any kind, whether it's a physical community, like you're going to have a bunch of tiny houses living somewhere. Oh my gosh, the ultimate dream. Can we do it? Let's have a pumpkin patch community where we all just live together and grow our own food, but not in like a weird way, if that makes sense. And I shouldn't even say weird, but like in a way that honors everybody. Sounds like a good time. But if you're like building a community that way in like a very real physical way, if you're building a virtual community, if you're trying to understand what your community even is, like maybe, like I said, you're challenging familial beliefs or things from the past and you feel like you just don't even have a community or a village anymore, you will, and you do. And that is something that's going to come at the end of this 6 months as well. Your community is going to make itself known to you. Okay, we have a few little last minute cards before we wrap up here. We have the card Change. As with the falling leaves, embrace change. So especially coming out over the tower, embrace the change, embrace what needs to fall away. It might be painful. It might be less painful. It depends on what your situation is out of the things that I've mentioned. But it might be painful to let certain things go, but there are better things on the other side. And then patience, wait for the fruit to ripen. So those of you that have been building communities or building abundance or moving in that way, have a little more patience. You don't plant the seed the day that you eat the fruit, right? And then courage. When picking roses, don't fear the thorns. So have courage to stand up for yourself and what you believe in, no matter who it is with. And that is what I have for you, pile number 3. I hope this reading resonated and that it helped you out. Please do not forget, when you stand up in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I'm at Kloee Taylor. If you want more readings like this, I put out new ones every single week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you will know when new videos come out. And if you would like to, I also have my Patreon where you can get exclusive readings. I'm so excited for the readings that are coming up, especially for the month of July. So definitely make sure you become a patron for the month so you can get those. I'm also going to be soon adding in some extra bonus content over there for one of the tiers. So definitely make sure you come and check it out. Link is going to be down below. And lastly, if you feel called to do so, it is never an expectation, but always appreciated. I have my Cashapp, Venmo, and PayPal listed down below. I do accept tips for my readings, but again, it is not something I expect of you. So if this resonated and you really feel called, it certainly helps me out. I put it towards new decks, new camera equipment, candles for the readings, flowers for the readings, crystals, whatever we need to get this going as a vibe. So unless you tell me otherwise, which sometimes people do, they'll comment and be like, go do this. I'm like, okay. But those of you that do, thank you so much. But if you don't feel called to, that is totally okay. I love you so much, my pumpkin. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.